Where did the defense go in the Sun Belt? It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz back for another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by the Ultimate College Football HC. It's a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right, so the big theme, and obviously it's not totally across the board, because, the Cajuns played good defense. ODU lost and actually played good defense. Marshall played some good defense. Those offenses were good as well. ULM played a good defense. But the teams that have been known for playing good defense the last few years did not at all. And as much as we like to call this the Fun Belt, mostly, well, I think for the officiating, but that's another deal. It's because it has high-powered offenses. But that's changed in the last couple of years because the team who won it the last 2 years, Troy, was the best in the conference in defense. And what they did last weekend compared to what they did the year before is night and day. Because we talked about all of the offensive players, from the quarterback to the running back to the wide receiver, that Troy was going to have to break in new players. And usually over the last couple of years, Troy scores 26 points. They're going to win the football game, right? That's what's going to happen. Let's see what Troy averaged points-wise. Does it say? I'm looking for defense from last year quickly, and I'm not finding it as quickly as I would like. I have some other stats raring to go. But it doesn't say, it just has yards. All right. And so I tried to find in game recap, the last time they gave up so many yards on the ground. Last year, Troy gave up an average, and yes, I know it's an average, of 308 yards. Just over 308 yards on average. They gave up 106 yards on the ground and last year, and about 200 yards, 202 yards in the air, if we could do the math. You want to know what Troy gave up against Nevada? Troy gave up 393 yards, almost 400 yards. They gave up 214 yards on the ground. Nevada averaged more than 6 yards a carry. What is going on? They didn't give up 214 yards in the air last year. They just gave up 214 yards on the ground. We mentioned that with Georgia Southern, and we'll get back to that as well. If you don't have to pass the ball, why would you? And so those are things they're going to have to change fast. Again, I'd have to go back and look at all the numbers, not that many numbers. But when was the last time Troy scored 26 points at home and lost? I know it's on a 2-point conversion, so it's close. But the defense has to get better and fast, as it says there at the bottom. Kind of shocking that some of the defenses, the way they played, shocking is the word, and completely unexpected. And in some cases, embarrassing. Again, we did a hashtag, always a bright side. And again, the teams that did win, right? Some mismatches, I get it. The Cajuns handled Grambling. ULM won, did a really good job in the second half. They played good defensively. Marshall was never threatened. Gave up a grand total of 3 points. ODU actually played good defense, right? The defense wasn't the reason that ODU lost. They kept on turning the ball over. The defense for ODU played incredibly well. Got to cut down on the turnovers and foolish mistakes. But when you see what Georgia Southern did, when you see what South Alabama did, and when you're looking at Troy, what is going on? Now, in Georgia Southern's defense, Boise State is probably one of the top 25 teams in the nation. They have a very high-powered offense. And Gentry is, Ashton Gentry is legit, as someone commented in the app. 267 yards and 6 touchdowns. Going all LeBron. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 touchdowns. It kind of feels like Boise State could have yelled out, Gentry to the right. Gentry to the right on 2. Hut, hut. Couldn't stop him. And that's the interesting part of this. That was the real takeaway from the weekend. It's not losing is not the issue, right? Because someone's going to lose a football game, right? We got that. If you told me, honestly, that Georgia Southern was going to have 45 points and 461 yards and lose by double digits, I would have not believed you. I wouldn't have believed you. You're telling me that Boise State's going to put up 60 on Georgia Southern? 60? They almost did. Almost 700 yards. I mean, whew, that's a little rough. All right. So the defense is going to have to get better and fast. And it will be interesting to see. And we'll talk about this, throughout the week. Again, it's about opportunity. The Cajuns are going to have their opportunity moving forward. App State has their opportunity coming this weekend. Texas State has their opportunity. Texas State didn't play all that great defensively in the second half. Just did enough. They won, but didn't play well enough offensively or defensively in the second half the way we're expecting them to do so. I don't know if App State walked through their game. Could have been a little vanilla, but they got the job done. A rather easy victory. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll look again more into that Georgia Southern defensive issues and the other schools with the defensive issues. And again, the defense needs to improve quickly. We will do that right after I tell you about the ultimate college football HC. Hey, Locked On Sunbelt fans. I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the App State Mountaineers? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about the game. You are responsible for calling the offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of the football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Sunbelt fans. Use your promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Maybe we should go through some of these other ball games, kind of hashtag always a bright side. Let me see if we got a better spot to do this in than scouring the all the different websites. Let's see, we can probably be off this way. This is what I'm looking for. All right. Cajuns gave up 241 yards to Grambling. That is probably expected. Marshall only 252 yards. All right. Still waiting for Marshall to use 4 quarterbacks in one football game. We'll see if that ever happens. ULM gave up only 286 yards overall. Texas State actually didn't play that poorly offensively. Less than 300 yards. Maybe there's some key plays you got to get off the field or some mistakes. But it's tough to complain too much when you're giving up less than 300 yards offensively. I will say that those first 4 teams, Cajuns gave up 75 yards on the ground, Marshall 94 yards on the ground, ULM 59 yards on the ground, and Texas State 51 yards on the ground. That usually sets up for more passing yards, and it did. All right, except now when you know it's time to pass, that's when the rush can play better. And you can defend it a little bit better. All right. We mentioned Old Dominion, 288 yards. App State, 305 yards. This is a little bit misleading stat. Southern Miss, 317 yards. In what? 35 minutes of play? That's not great. I know Will Hall came out and said, we didn't want the game to be stopped. I mean, it was going to be ugly. It was already ugly. It was already 31-0, and it could have been into the 50s, and they could have given up, 500 or 600 yards. Coastal are not bad, although I think most of the defense that Coastal gave up was probably against the backups in the fourth quarter against Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State was, bad. And they're actually coming to meet in Louisville this weekend. Maybe we'll get up close and personal with them. Troy gave up, again, almost 400 yards of offense. Arkansas State didn't play particularly well. Good defense. That's going to be an issue. If Arkansas State wants to contend, they got to play a little bit better defense. 432 yards. Not great. Georgia State gave up almost 500 yards. 499. South Alabama, 550 yards. Sheesh. And Georgia Southern, 651 yards. The first 4 teams gave up a grand, oh, goodness. Now, I know it's a competition, so it's not fair at all. But the Cajuns, Marshall, ULM, and Texas State, even if you want to throw ODU in there, gave up a grand total of 8 touchdowns. Cajuns gave up 1. Marshall didn't give up any. ULM, 2. Texas State, 3. And Old Dominion, 2. So that's 5, 7, 8 touchdowns with the first 5 teams defensively. Georgia Southern gave up 8 touchdowns total. If they can't figure it out, and again, this very well may be like a Clemson situation. Georgia Southern's probably not going to face a whole lot of teams as offensively explosive, even if you have a JMU or an App State as explosive as Boise State. So hashtag always a bright side. At the same time, though, that's a lot of defense, right? That's a lot of yards on defense. And when you know what's coming and can't stop it, that makes it even worse. All right, so we went over Georgia Southern. We really probably belabored that point. But the same thing can be said for, South Alabama. Just awful defensively. South Alabama only gave up 104 yards rushing. That's because they gave up 446 yards passing. North Texas didn't need to run it because they could get all the yards that they wanted in the air. And they allowed 6 touchdowns. South Alabama could not get off the field in the second half. They allowed 28 points in the third quarter. Some of that is special teams issues or puts the defense in a really bad spot. That does not account for 550 yards. let's see what we got last year's stats. I know Troy was number one in offense, or number one in defense, rather, 308 yards a game. South Alabama, 313 yards a game. And they gave up, what did we say, 550? So Troy gave up a good, 30% more yardage. South Alabama gave up like 60% more yardage. They went from 300 to 550, something like that. Jeez. And Troy up to the 400s. Georgia Southern, they gave up 400 yards on offense last year, and we thought they were going to be better. Again, it may just be Boise State. It may just be the competition, but this has to get better fast. All right. And they say the cliche is, the teams improve the most between week 1 and week 2. And to that, I'll say that's a good thing because there's a ton to improve on. Bada. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll start an early preview and see who the defenses are playing. And we know some of the opportunities, others we haven't mentioned, because that is the key word that we're talking about this year. It's the opportunities for the Sun Belt. We will do that after we talk about 5-hour energy. Boy, did I need 5-hour energy this weekend. Went to the football game in Lexington, except I didn't see any football. Worked all day. There was no traffic until I got into Lexington. Got to the stadium at about 7:30. We already had the delay on. Delay, lightning, delay. By the time they announced the start time at about 9:45, maybe it was a little bit earlier than that, but they announced the time was going to start at 10:05. I was out of there. Had to drive back and be ready to work all day on Sunday. What was there for me? It was 5-hour energy. That's for sure. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-hour energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon. I use tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. On the site, you'll even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-hour energy product today. You can use my promo code LOCKDOWNCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th, and it's only good for one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We're going to get close to that 1,500. We got it. We're off to a good start here in the last week of August and now the first week in September. So we do appreciate that very, very much. All right, so quickly, let's go over this. And again, we have some huge games week 2 of the Sun Belt. The Cajuns are not one of them. The Cajuns are playing Kennesaw State. That's not one of them. All right. William and Mary going to Coastal Carolina. Also not one of them. And maybe not Southeastern playing at Southern Miss, although that's really important for Southern Miss to get things going in the right direction. Clemson and App State is as enormous as it gets. That's on prime time. That's on the ACC network. App State has a great opportunity to show that they belong and that Joey Aguilar is the best quarterback on the field. They're going to have to play some good defense because the one thing Clemson did against Georgia was play defense. It got out of control at the end. A couple of adjustments that Georgia made, and the defense was exhausted because the offense didn't do anything. If App State can do anything defensively, they may be in good shape. All right. How about Georgia Southern and Nevada? Georgia Southern now is in danger of starting 0-2 with high expectations. Nevada's just better than everybody thought they were. They were a 27-point underdog to SMU. They lost, but they covered. And obviously, they went into Troy and upset the Trojans. Arkansas State hosting Tulsa. Don't know how good Tulsa is. They put up a lot of points. Last weekend. ULM getting UAB. UAB is explosive and has a good defense. Is ULM going to be able to keep up and shut down Trent Dilfer's Blazers? We'll see. Georgia State getting Chattanooga. Going to have to beat the Mocs. No other way to put it. James Madison hosting Gardner-Webb. Shouldn't be much of a ball game. South Alabama's going to Ohio as my world is colliding a couple of times. Ohio played Syracuse. They covered by a half a point. Not particularly happy about that. And they actually played the Cuse tight to begin with. But Syracuse's defense and then eventually offense got it going a little bit against the Bobcats. We'll see what South Alabama can do. Should be mentioned, we kind of overlooked it, trying to figure out how Ethan Vasco was the player of the week in the Sun Belt because I know Gio Lopez and South Alabama lost, but Gio Lopez was basically responsible for 500 yards. That's as dynamic as you can get. The kid doesn't play defense. He passed and ran for almost a combined 500 yards. East Carolina is going to Old Dominion. Can Old Dominion turn it around? That's a big ball game. Old Dominion hosting the Pirates. Virginia Tech lost to Vandy last week. They did come back, but Vandy wins, and Marshall is going to Va Tech. Can Marshall win that game? Texas State maybe played better defense than I thought. Got to be better offensively. They're hosting UTSA before Arizona State's coming in. And Troy, they're going to Memphis. Memphis, again, one of those teams that people are talking about getting into the playoffs. They started out with an easy 40-0 win over North Alabama. So we don't know much about Memphis either. But again, those are all opportunities. I mean, how many big ball games do we have? Troy, Texas State, Marshall. I'm going to count ODU as a big one. I'll count ULM as a big one. Arkansas State is 7. Arkansas State is 6. Georgia Southern is 7 big ball games. And then the biggest one is App State and Clemson. So 8 ball games, you're going to have to start to play some defense. As much as I want to see the scoring, you got to get off the field. I do not think that it should be shutouts or anything along those lines. I think holding teams to under 20 points in the Sun Belt is outstanding. Again, I want to see points. See if we can find that real scoring offense, scoring defense. Oh, if I just look to the left, we'd be all set. All right, again, Troy allowed 17 points a game last year. 17. Just over 17 points a game. They gave up 28 to Nevada. James Madison, less than 20. South Alabama gave up 21 points a game last year. 21. They just gave up 56. Not all on the defense. I get it. But, there's a reason why, Troy, James Madison, South Alabama, although South Alabama wasn't nearly as good last year as they should have been. I'm still not sure why. But when you're good defensively, because defense travels, as they say, you're always in the game. That's the thing. You're always in the game when you play good defense. Sometimes you're one big play away from either taking control of the game or getting back in the game. You could be down, double digits. The offense goes down and score. You got to get a stop. You get the stop or you get a turnover, and boom, you're leading the game. So, again, 8 huge ball games. They're all big, right? I don't mean to take away from South Alabama and Ohio or the Cajuns and Kennesaw State. As Mike Desimo said at his press conference on Monday, we're still just a 6-7 football team, so nobody should be looking past anybody. They do have Tulane. So the following week at home, and they had a huge crowd, although they're only playing in half a stadium. So that was nice to see. And so maybe the fans are looking ahead to Tulane because Kennesaw State is not supposed to be very good. But I like the attitude that Desimo is taking. We're not all that great of a football team, so we can't be taking anybody lightly. Having said that, that ball game in a couple of weeks is going to be huge against John Summerall and Tulane. All right. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. We're getting some new AI stuff that's going to help me promote the channel. So you may see more of it. Hopefully, I will have time to do that. So I appreciate all the support we're getting from Locked On and some new things to get more people to see the videos, and maybe we'll make some, reels and stories and stuff like that to get it out there. All right, so we'll have another. We'll start again with, I think, did I see that right? A preview of, well, that probably won't be for tomorrow, but we'll have to wait until Thursday's episode for Troy and Memphis. That's an early, that they're all these games are Saturday. So there are no early ball games this week. Troy and Memphis are playing an early ball game. I guess that's noon on Saturday, 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Central Time. Yeesh. All right. Again, thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. You've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.